Peace to the gods, the goddesses, the kings, the queens, and all the children of the Most High God. This is Professor L, once again, coming back to drop that science, raise the vibrations, lift the frequencies, and resurrect the consciousness of the gods. Now, today is a very, very special lecture that I've been holding back for a long time. Today, this lecture will basically define why it is that I always say I have come to resurrect the consciousness of the gods. I'm going to teach you today what it really means to understand the law of vibration. This lecture is Know Thy Higher Self, Walk Like a God, Part 2, the initiation. Now, if you heard Know Thy Higher Self, if you've listened to Know Thy Higher Self, Walk Like a God, Part 1, then you'll understand how powerful this lecture is going to be. This entire lecture centers around two men. I'm going to give you an example of two men of God. One man is a pastor. The other one is just a man of God. That would be me. I'm going to talk about the pastor first. The pastor is a very successful pastor from, I think, Chicago. I can't really remember. But anyway, this pastor has a, sufficient sized church, maybe close to 500-600 members, I think I've heard. And the pastor then brought his congregation into a multi-level marketing system. And because a good portion of his congregation, maybe over half, that would be maybe 300 or 400 people, joined this organization, the pastor then became financially wealthy, as well as some of the people in his congregation, because they did begin to tap into this principle of technology. This multi-level organization dealt with technology. So the pastor eventually was promoted to a title, whatever the title was, vice president, one of these titles that he got. And with this title came this ring. Not to mention that the pastor and his wife were getting over $500,000 a month from this organization because of the large number of people that they brought in with them. Multi-level marketing does work, so I'm not knocking him for his hustle. However, I want to focus on that ring. When the pastor got to a certain level in this organization, they gave him this ring. This ring was like a Super Bowl ring, but it was platinum. Because that's the level that he had made in the organization. They call it a platinum level. I'm not going to go into details or name the organization. If you want to know, I'm not going to do that. The pastor got this ring, and the ring was over $10,000. Platinum, diamonds, rubies, real fancy ring. Everybody who reached a certain level got this ring. So the point of the story is, the pastor, being from Chicago, happened to mention in one of his motivational speeches that when he goes to certain areas in Chicago, he turns the ring around so that it looks like a wedding band and not a Super Bowl ring. Not, it doesn't, all its glory is not revealed. He turns it around. And the reason he turns it around is because he is fearful that the young men in the neighborhood would rob him. Now, I did say this is a pastor, and he says, and he is a man of God. Well, I guess, he's a pastor, so I'm, I don't like to assume, but, so I'm going to believe he's a man of God. He's leading the entire congregation. I guess he knows the word. So, in other words, around the same children, from my perspective, of the individuals that he's ministering to in his own community, I'm pretty sure, he has a large church, so I'm pretty sure a lot of people in that community are going to that church if you got close to 600 members. And so therefore, you're ministering, and then at the same time, in the same community, you're fearful of the young men going to rob you. But this is a pastor, and he's a man of God. So every time he gets around the same young men that he's possibly ministering to on Sundays, but if he sees them in the street, he's turning the ring around. But yet, once again, this is a pastor and a man of God. Now, a lot of you are probably hearing that saying, wow, I would do that too. I don't want them stealing my goddamn ring. Shit, all that work I put in foot hounding, trying to, sell them products and shit. I don't want them to run up on me, not my ring. I probably wouldn't even wear my ring outside. Okay, we ain't talking about punk asses. We talking about pastors who claim that they're men of God. So now, keep that story in mind as I tell you my story. A man of God. Several years ago, I moved to another neighborhood. And, I didn't know anybody in this neighborhood. My wife and my family, we moved. And, because I'm into, the youth, I would talk to one or two young men in the neighborhood. Yo, what up, my brother Pete? Yo, what's going on around here? Trying to find out, man, what, the young brothers doing. And always trying to, as a youth counselor, trying to see what I could implement that could assist them. So, but at the same time, I'm not the type of person, though I'm a loving being, I'm not the type of person that force myself on people. So you don't find me walking around looking to meet new friends. I kind of let, the universe bring what it brings. So anyway, I was in this new place for about 2 or 3 months. And, I would go to this little park in the daytime. My daughter was still in college at the time, so I've had her little dog. And I would walk the dog to this park in the daytime. And the way this park is set up, this park is not a big park, but it's like if you have a cul-de-sac and 2 houses is missing in the cul-de-sac, that little whole area is now like a little turned into like a little kiddie park with the other side leading out to the main road. So I would say this park is like around about maybe 200 feet by 100 feet. Like a little rectangle. So inside this park is a path that goes from the cul-de-sac to the street, but on either side of the path, on one side of the path is a little monkey bars for kids and swings, and the other side of the path is one table, one picnic table with like a canopy over it, but it's one picnic table. And then in the daytime, I used to go there, because I was just moved to this new area and I was pondering a lot of things, and a lot of things was going through my mind. So I would go in the daytime and I would sit there and I would meditate with my little doggy. And I would just sit there for an hour and just enjoy the park and meditate. So, moving the story right along, one night, me and my wife have a little slight disagreement. And because I am not confrontational, for the most part, I didn't feel like getting into all of that. So I just decided I was going to walk to this park. It's about 12 o'clock at night. And I decided I'm going to walk to this park. And I'm going to sit at this little table. And lo and behold, when I get to the park, there's the table and there's no one there. But of course, it's pitch dark in the park. And at night, no one nearly goes in the park. But it's not a big park. So, I figured I'll just walk in there. You can... As long as you can see the form of the table where the table is and you can see the path, your eyes kind of adjust when you're in there. You kind of see like the forms and stuff like that. So I just go on the table. And I remember there's no lights on in the park because where I'm at, it's against the law to be in the park at night. So they don't turn any lights on. So this park is pitch black. Are you with me? So me just thinking about my own situation and going to my old place of meditation, I walk over to this park. And I sit not on the bench, but on the table with my feet on the bench. And I sit there. And I'm sitting on this table, and it's pitch black. So it doesn't matter if my eyes are open and closed because it's pitch black. And the only thing you can see if you look up, because you're under a canopy, so the only thing you can really see is that if you look far enough, you see somebody's light on in their house. But right in the immediate area, it's all pitch black around me. A young man comes up on a bike. I guess he's a young man, but he sounds young because you really can't see faces. You can only see forms and figures. So a young man comes up on a bike. And he says to me, "You the only one here?" And I said, "Yeah." So he looks at me. And I look at him. But we really can't see each other's faces because it's pitch black. But both of us can recognize that there's 2 forms standing here. One sitting, one standing with his bike looking at me. So he then takes the bike And he goes over into the little monkey bars and he just chills over there. So I continue to chill where I'm at. You know, it's pitch black. So he over there, I'm over here. In my little spot, sitting on the bench. We all sitting under the canopy. And then 2 other young men come into the park and they walk up to the canopy. And they look at me sitting there. Now, I guess they're young men because they sound young, you know. I'm an older man, so, you know, I can tell the voice of a youth. So I'm sitting there, you know, so they walk up. They don't really walk up to me. They just walk up and look at me sitting on the table. I can kind of see the, you know, you can see their form, but you really can't see details because it's pitch black, once again. It's nighttime in the park. And they say, is anybody else here? I don't know who they looking for. So I said, yo, it's a young man over there by the monkey bars. You know me, just as cool as ever. Yo, I'm used to this, man. I'm from Brooklyn, man. You know what I'm saying? Yo, I'm OG. I'm OG. So I'm like, yo, it's the cat over there by the monkey bars, man. I'm thinking maybe they looking for him. I don't know. So they look at me, they look at each other. Then they go over there by the monkey bars. So me, refocusing on my purpose, which was to take up and have a meditation. So then I take my 7 deep breaths and I go into this deep meditation. You gotta hold that last breath, man, until you hear them stars and bells and shit. That's how it works for me. Sometimes I think I ain't gonna have them stars and bells and shit. Yo, did I go too deep? So I go into this perfect stillness, in this perfect darkness. And it doesn't matter that my eyes are closed because it's dark any goddamn way. But at the same time, I can hear these gentlemen, like, you know, kind of chatting over there in the little kiddie section that they're sitting in. And I'm under the canopy by myself, pitch black, in the dark, just loving it. And I just totally sink into this total stillness. Now the crickets are going, and it's nothing but the stillness. And I'm loving everything in existence. I am perfectly still. Now I'm going to have a picture up of this park as I'm talking so that you can kind of look at the park and you'll see where I'm sitting. So I'm sitting back in this stillness. Now, I want you to understand that as I explain this, relate this account to you, I want you to understand that if you know high consciousness, as I'm explaining this, those who are wise will be able to discern when I am transferring my dialogue, when I am relating the story from the 3rd dimension and from the 4th dimension of love. So as I'm sitting here explaining it right now, I'm in the 4th dimension. I'm sitting there just loving everything. The crickets are going, the universe, oh, everything is perfect. Even those gentlemen are sitting over there chatting lightly with one another. Everything is perfect. And it's pitch black. In the park after 12 midnight, this little park and me. It's so lovely. The stillness. This was a beautiful 4th dimension experiment. I was almost in the 5th dimension. I was just sitting there and I was one with everything. I didn't even feel my flesh. The only thing that I felt, man, was my 3rd eye. That's the only thing I felt like I was looking through was my 3rd eye. And I sat there. I didn't even feel my body. And those gentlemen were sitting there on the other side. I could hear them chatting light with one another. So I sat there, almost as if I was the bench itself. I was totally one with the universe. Now listen closely. Out of nowhere, on the street side of the park, which was about 75 feet from where I was sitting. No, I would say about 100 feet. And on the other side is another 100 feet. I'm sitting dead in the center of the park. And this bench was placed dead center of the park with this canopy over it. Picnic table. Almost like, you know, for like somebody who would taking care of kids in the daytime for like the families in the neighborhood, and they would sit there at the table while the kids are on the monkey bars. You know, like a little setup, man, for a little small group daycare center. So I'm sitting there. And out of nowhere, about 5 guys come in the park talking gently to one another from the street side. This is around about now, because I'm going through the time frame in my mind. I came to this park around about 5 to 12, and I got into this meditation around about 15 after 12. While on the other side, another 5 or 6 guys are walking in from the cul-de-sac side. So I don't say anything because, they're talking lightly and I'm sitting there. So I sit there. I'm totally perfect, totally still, loving God, loving this meditation in this pitch black park. And here these gentlemen come in and they're talking lightly to one another. The 5 guys that came in on the street side kind of line up around the table on my left side. And the 5 or 6 guys that came into the park from the cul-de-sac side kind of lined up around the table on my right side. But they were all just, kind of lining up. Some were talking, some weren't talking. Now, folks, I want y'all to remember, this is a true story. I'm in the 3rd dimensional realm when I'm telling you this. Do not try this at home because this is a true fucking story. So do not try this. Because I had no intention of going through this park. I mean, I had no intention of, I didn't know really what was going on. So let me get back into the 4th dimension. So I'm sitting there. So once again, on the street side, another 7 or 8 guys come into the park, lightly chatting. And they go around behind the back of the table. Now remember, I'm the only one sitting on the table. And I am totally aware of everyone. All these guys lining up around this table. Some of them are chatting and some are not chatting. On my street side, on the cul-de-sac side, my right side, where the houses were, another 11 or 12 guys come walking into the park, talking lightly to one another. And they line up around the table on my right side and go around the back. But still, I am sitting there, perfectly loving the universe. However, I did notice that the crickets are now not cricketing, and the stillness is kind of transferred, and there's movement and talking. There's a bunch of gentlemen talking. Just a bunch of gentlemen talking. But I'm sitting on this table. And I'm sitting there because, it's a park. And it's a park. And, people can come into the park if they want to come into the park. This is what I'm thinking while I'm in the 4th dimension. Because it's, and here's the thing. Nobody drove up in a car. So that means that all these guys, because another 12 guys came in like on the street side, they're walking in because this park has 2 ends, but it's like rectangle, but I would say maybe about 100 feet wide, but it's like 200 feet long. And I'm sitting dead in the center with this path right in front of me. And on the other side of the path, you still got the other 3 guys sitting in there chatting. Maybe 2 or 3 other guys have now went over there. So I'm sitting there. I'm sitting on this table, loving the nighttime, listening to these gentlemen, some chatting, some not chatting. They're all lined up around the table. So now I have like around about 35 guys around the table. And again, some are chatting and some are not chatting. But I'm sitting there. And in my mind, there was like, maybe I would say 5% of me wondering why nobody else is sitting on the table next to me. But I'm from Brooklyn. I'm an OG. So, I'm not going to ask the person to sit on the fucking table. If you see me sit on the table and there's only one dude on the table, it's space on the table, sit on the fucking table, nigga, if you want to sit down. You don't want to sit down, I'm sitting on the table, I'm meditating, and I'm not going to allow nothing to disturb this meditation. So I sit there. But I'm not saying nothing to them. They ain't saying shit to me, so I sit there. But this table is totally surrounded. However, there was a path on my right side. Now remember, I got my eyes closed, so I am perfectly still. But if you don't know deep meditation in high consciousness, you can see almost everything around you. And I happened to notice, without opening my eyes, that slightly at a 45-degree angle to my right, there was a path open, big enough for a person to walk through. So, I'm just noticing that. I'm not moving toward that. I'm figuring, somebody else is maybe they leaving the path open for somebody. I don't know. I'm enjoying my meditation. I'm chilling. I'm sitting there, and all these cats. So I'm figuring out somebody got to roll the fucking L. I just know that somebody is going to roll a L and sit down next to me, tap me on my shoulder and say, yo, take a pull on this, brother. This is what I'm thinking in my mind as I'm sitting around in this park. Now, you have to understand, I am in deep meditation, so I have not moved 1 inch. I haven't blinked. The only thing you have my entity doing sitting in that park is breathing in and out. And that part is pitch black. And all you can just see is forms and figures if you had your eyes open. But fortunately for me, I was in deep meditation, so my eyes are closed. So I am just loving all the entities around me. I'm just loving each and every one of them because I know each and every one of them love me. So I'm sitting there waiting for one of them to roll out because I know one of these motherfuckers got to smoke some weed. But I'm not going to ask nobody for no weed, because I'm OG from Brooklyn. So I'm just sitting there. If ain't nobody smoking, then ain't nobody smoking. I won't smoke. But if somebody's smoking, you sit at the table. Come on, come on now. As long as you ain't got the shit laced, we good. If it's straight from the earth, I'm with you. Getting back to my meditation, I'm sitting there. So now you have to understand, I have never moved 1 inch from the time I took them 7 breaths. So I'm perfectly still. My spirit is totally just observe my entire surrounding. But on the flip side, you have all these guys standing around me, and none of them are saying anything to me, and I didn't say anything to them. None of them have come sit on the table. Each person was at least 10 feet from, I would say maybe 7 to 10 feet from the table. And now you got about 35 to 45 dudes. Because, I could literally kind of see them coming in. So I sat there, because, hey, I'm new in the area. It's day park. So I don't know. It's a park, goddammit. You got to understand my mind. So I'm from Brooklyn. You see, when you're from one of the cities, New York, Chicago, you know what I'm saying? Miami. When you're from the hood, you got to understand, if you're from the hood and you sit down in the hood, you ain't moving. If you're in the hood, if you where you live at, and you sit down someplace like in your hood, the only person that could come tell you to move from that spot is if you sit on somebody's property, the property owner, or if a government official and you're sitting on city property, which I was, sitting in the park. And I know the law, you can't sit in the park at night, but come on, I'm meditating. Who the fuck is going to come tell me I can't sit in the fucking park? Get the fuck out of here. I'm from Brooklyn. I'm OG. So I'm sitting there. It's like I'm sitting down in Brooklyn and shit. So I'm sitting there. If any one of these dudes want to sit on the table, sit on the motherfucking table. You want to sit on the table? I ain't got to do with that shit. You want to sit on the table? Stand the fuck up, man. What the fuck? This is my mindset. But anyway, I'm from Brooklyn, baby. What's up? What's up to the gods? What's up to the gods in all the cities? Y'all know how this Redskin gods roll. Vibration, baby. So I'm sitting there vibrating on the highest frequency of God. And I'm loving each and every individual around me. I will tell you honestly from my heart. Let me tell you something. When you're in deep meditation, you are in the bosom of God. So I am sitting there literally feeling such love that at any time I am waiting for somebody to plug on a fucking speaker, roll out a goddamn L, pass me a fucking chicken sandwich, and say, yo, hit the mic, yo, let's do a mic check up in this piece. Mic check, mic. This is what the fuck I was really waiting for. I'm sitting there thinking block party up in this bitch. You gotta understand high meditation when your mind is innocent and filled with love. I am in the middle of the hood, and now let me go back to the story. You gotta understand, I'm a G from Brooklyn. When you're in your hood and you walking through your hood, if you love everybody in your hood, then you know everybody love you. What the fuck you afraid of? But a lot of people don't understand that. You gotta think like a G. Yo, who? What? I know a lot of people probably saying, I would have got the fuck out of that park. Are you fucking nuts? The first 3 guys came in, I was gone. But I wasn't thinking like that. It's a fucking park, Shit, it's open to the public. I know we ain't supposed to be in there at night, but damn, unless the cops coming through there, the cops come through there and say, yo, excuse me, sir, you gotta leave. I would have got up and said, oh, pardon me, officer, just meditating. Y'all have a nice, safe night. Peace, I'm out. You know, we ain't gotta go through all that shit. I ain't trying to make the news all that bullshit. You know, that's how I would do. You know, basically what I'm saying is, I felt that, you know, they would only be the ones that could come in there and tell me leave the park. You know, I'm from Brooklyn. So, you know, when you're from Brooklyn, you sit down. Yo, when you sit down, when the G sit down, the G sit down. Come on, you know, you got to watch the movie Shawshank Redemption, man. You know how OG sit. When the OG sit, he sit. And then the rank sits with him. And that's how I sat in that park that day. Why? I'm in deep meditation. And when you're in deep meditation, you ain't really in no park. You're in the bosom of God. So I sat there, man, waiting for everybody to have a good time like me. Yo, shit, where the chicken sandwiches at? I'm sitting there thinking somebody gonna pass me an chicken sandwich, cup of Kool-Aid and all this shit. I'm waiting for a nigga to grab the mic and start the rap contest with this motherfucker. What's going on? Everybody around it. Everybody up in here. Oh my God. So anyway, getting back to the story, I'm sitting there just loving everything in this meditation. Now, let's go back to the time frame. I started this at 5 minutes. I came in that park at 5 minutes to 12 midnight. At around about 12:15, I took them 7 deep breaths, and now I'm into this deep meditation. Around about 5 minutes to 1, I would say the bulk of these guys is now in the park, and they're still talking. And all of them is around this table with this little space is open. So I'm still sitting there loving every minute, but I'm observing everything. Law of observation. You got to study them universal laws. So then, around about, now listen very closely, because here I'm going to teach you the power of the law of cause and effect, the power of the law of correspondence, as above, so below, and the power of the law of vibration, as well as the power of the law of action. Listen very close, and then you will understand karma and 360 degrees of truth. So now, around about 1:15, because I'm going through this in my mind, so I'm looking at like the time frames, and I'm kind of basing this on when I eventually did pull my phone out of my pocket and look at the time at the end of the meditation. But I'm going about around about 1:15, everybody got quiet. At exactly about 1:15, nobody said a word. I sat there, and they all stood there. The same stillness you just heard in this speech, this lecture, is the silence that was permeating that entire area. From 1:15 to 1:35, there was absolute stillness. There was so much stillness in that park that even the crickets started up again. For 20 minutes, no one said a word. Not one of the 40 to 45 guys that surrounded that table with that one little space open for one person to walk out. And eventually it dawned on me that that one person that was supposed to walk out that circle, that was me. Dude, but I didn't understand that when I was in my stages of love and the meditation. Oh my God. From 1:15 to 1:35, 40 dudes perfectly meditated on the one figure in front of them. Just think about that. I had no idea that this was a gang bang meeting and that all the lieutenants and leaders of the gangs met from the area at this place. There was one guy who stood in the cul-de-sac side who did not come near the entire setting. A well-dressed gentleman wearing a felt fedora, Prada shoes, Rolex watch. He had on a shirt and a tie with a vest, professor type vest, you know, with the little checks and squares in it that a college professor would wear as he teaches you. He had one of those over his outfit, and his fedora was pulled down, and you could see his hand was folded in front of him. He had his hands clasped together, but one hand over the other, folded in front of him with his head down. But this is how I saw him as I eventually did come out of the circle. But let me go back into the circle, because I want you to understand supreme meditation. You see, I was in the deepest meditation, and when you are in the deepest meditation, no harm can come to thee. I sat in the bosom of God, loving every gangbanger that stood around me. God told me, he said, you had no idea what was going through their minds when they saw that you never moved. He said, you had no idea that there was at least 6 dudes around you that would have put a bullet in the back of your head if that man with that felt had just merely snapped his finger. He said you had no idea that over half of those guys standing there had bodies on them, and that's how they earned their rank. He said you had no idea that all of them were armed. And he said they had no idea who the hell you were, sitting right there defying their gangsterhood. I didn't know that God was taking me to the next level. That was a test of initiation, because the average man would have got his ass out of there. But no. You see, when God want to let you know who you are, he going to bring all of you. It don't matter that you gangster. You gangster. My wife tells me all the time, she said, you think you gangster? No, I know who I am. My gangster's with a G. Man of God. Godly man. A real God. So when you hear me talk about, I come with the food for the gods, now you know why. I have been tested. I sat there, I refused to move, and I loved each and every one of them. Why? Because they think they G's, I'm a G. And where I come from, when you take a seat, you don't move. And that's the first thing they saw. I never turned around. Who in their right mind is going to have at least 30 guys line up behind them in a pitch black park and not even turn around and look over their shoulder once? I never moved. I came to meditate, and y'all will, whatever it is y'all doing, y'all will either take part in this meditation, which is what the hell they eventually did, meditating on me. They matched me. Stillness for stillness. Staring at me. Who the hell is this man? Don't know that we come here once every Wednesday, once a month every Wednesday. I didn't know that. All I know is I'm coming to meditate. I didn't know my God was setting up a initiation. You see, y'all got to understand, sometimes when you know that you are a universe, and that in that universe, there's you and God, your higher and your lower self. My lecture's just been put up. Go study it. The higher and the lower self. You see, in that higher and lower self, it's just you and God in your illusion. And God is your higher self. That's what Jesus means when he said, when you see me, you see the Father. Because when them guys saw me sitting there, they didn't know that when I was in that meditative state, they were looking at the Father side, not my physical side, because that's why you couldn't come near the table. You couldn't match that vibrational frequency. It didn't matter what weapon you carry. You are looking at a real man of God. I've been holding that lecture back for a long time. But God says now it's time for you to let them know who you are. You see, if you understand universal laws, those brothers couldn't touch me. The love that I have for each and every one of them vibrated so high. They themselves couldn't understand how a man could sit there perfectly still and you line up behind people and this dude never even turned around once to see who's standing behind him. Because in the universe, I can see all of y'all. All of you are entities. But if you understand the laws, especially the law of vibration, because all the wise sages know, I suggest y'all Google this phrase if you want to start taking off, man, onto some real consciousness. He who knows the secret to frequency vibration holds the scepter of power. So that's why I sat there right there on a high frequency, sitting in the bosom of God. So now let's get back to the story so I can close this out. So like I said, there was a little space there. So around about 1:35, but I didn't know it was 1:35 at the time, I heard God say, "You're good." That's all I heard. So when I heard God say, "You're good," I finally stretched, stood up, and I reached into my pocket, and I pulled out my phone. That's the first time light came on my face. So whoever the hell they were, everybody know this new nigga in the neighborhood. It's me, Professor motherfucking L. And I looked at my phone, and my phone said 1:35. And then I stretched again, and I walked to that one little space that's been there all along. And I passed the two brothers standing there. "Peace, guys." They said peace. And there was spotted guys standing outside like soldiers. You know how they do. Lookouts and shit. So I passed them and said, "Peace, God." They said peace. So as I was going around, because I had to cut through the subdivision, I don't feel like walking out to the street. That's the long way around to my house. So I cut through the subdivision, and there was Mr. OG himself, still standing there, feet slightly apart, Pradas, very expensive Pradas, Rolex, one gold finger, not real flashy, but he had a fat Rolex. And you could see some of these things because there was some lights from the porches, one in front of him and porches behind him, but it was still dark in the park, so you could just see this glitter. And he was still looking down as I passed him, and I passed him making my turn, and you could kind of say I passed him within a human body range, so I passed him kind of close. And you know why I passed him within a human body range? Because when you get within a human body range, you're kind of invading somebody's personal space. I passed him real close because I wanted to feel his energy. And I felt it. And guess what? He felt mine. He never looked up. So I looked at him because I was a little bit taller than him. And I said, "Peace, God." He said, "Peace." And the minute I passed him is when he started walking to that table. So because I said it's dark in the park, so you really can't see details, but you can't see forms, I happened to just glance because, when you a G and you in your hood, one thing I learned, when you walking away from somebody, you walk away from a situation, man, don't look back. Certain areas, man, no, don't look back, dude. Just keep walking. Whatever is. So once you make the decision to walk. But I glanced, me, ego. I kind of glanced, and I happened to notice, because I'm going around a curve, so I ain't really have to turn my head. I could just cut my eye. And I noticed that now the guys are sitting on the table, and he's walking toward the table. So I want you to understand, you can have people who are going to say that they're men of God, they're women of God. But your God will take you through a test of initiation to let you know whether or not you are truly a man or a woman of God. But I hope somebody got a message. You see, I've been holding that story back for a long time. Because when I came out that park and when I told my wife about it, to this day, my wife looks at me. My kids, wow. That was supreme meditation. I didn't know that God was taking me through a test of initiation. And when I passed that test of initiation, that's when I fully understand the law of as above, so below. As I sat there in my mind meditating, loving all of them, they had no choice but to love me. My frequency was too high. So there was nothing but love in the air. So they could not come near the table with whatever negative energy was in them. So the barrier of love surrounded me. Love is a frequency vibration. That's why Jesus talked about that. People don't realize that Jesus is wisdom that is to help you lead to your higher self. A lot of people say, "Oh, Jesus, no, you're waiting for a man." No, you study, show thyself approved, and your mind turns into the crystal oil. You become one who has the crystallized mind. And when you have a crystallized mind, you can go in front of any human being, doesn't matter what weapon they have. Guns and shit don't scare me. Each one of those dudes was packed with a gun when I sat there. Each one of them was strapped. So I didn't come for any violence, and I'm not afraid of guns. You got to understand, it's all about how you vibrate, what you attract. I was a gangster. My wife always said, my wife was like, "Yo, well, I'm from Brooklyn, man. I grew up in Brooklyn, so you call it what you want." You know what I'm saying? Come on, you grew up in the cities, man. Yo, you know how G's are. And in the cities, man, it's like, yo, high energy. It's not like the country. Hey, Bob, on the porch and shit. Hey, Bob. And maybe you and Bob might get into a little scuffle at the close to Bob. No, in the city, man, there's always somebody wanting to test that ass. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yo, now cats ain't got, man. They testing you, man. So, yo, when you in the city, man, yo, you got to roll with a certain vibration. Come on. All you city brothers know what I'm talking about. But I wanted to share that story to all the gods, the goddesses, the kings, the queens, and all the children of the Most High. Start setting up the universal laws. Understand that in your universe, your God will test you at any time. I had no idea. If I was in my natural state, you know, I would have seen all of those gods. Maybe I would have just said, yo. But nah, that's not me, man, because, you know, I don't tend to walk around, guys. I'm the type that's going to, you know, I'm the type, man, that if I'm on that path, man, I'm just going to walk on my path. You know, I'm not going around the corner and all of that shit because I see a bunch of dudes. I'm from the city, man. So when you're from the city, man, you used to 50 niggas over there, 25 cats over there, 40 dudes over there and shit. You used to that shit. So I wasn't moving no place, man. When you G from the city, when you sit, dude. They realize that, man. It's like, you know, so God says now, it's like, man, yo, look. I just wanted to share that story, man, because I've been holding that for a long time. God said, you got to let people know about the power of meditation, the power of truly trusting in a state of love. So I hope somebody got something from that. You see, so even when I reflect back on the first thing that came to my mind was that pastor. And that's how your God feeds you. Your God take you to a situation, help you to learn your situation, and when you pass your test of initiation, then he give you, you know, he helps you to review, oh, you see, so that man go in that area, man, and he's afraid of those brothers. No. If he really understand unconditional love, you wouldn't be afraid of those brothers. Once he understood unconditional love, they then would reflect the energy of his wisdom. Hello. You see, it's all about wisdom. It ain't about titles and what you think you know and how many people, man, you got in your congregation. It's all about wisdom. You must always remember, the wisest man supposedly ever born on the planet, Solomon, which was really a man. Solomon is really the soul of man seeking wisdom. Solomon, the soul of man seeking wisdom. What did Solomon pray for? Wisdom. Solomon didn't pray for Jesus. Solomon prayed for wisdom. You are here to learn yourself. And what happens when you learn yourself? Wisdom. And what happens when wisdom sets in? Ascension. And what happens when ascension sets in? You can do all things. So I'm not trying to say that, you know, oh man, I want to beat up all those guys at the bar. You made up chairs on me. Come on, buddy, come on. I didn't even go through all that. I just sat there loving God. And in my unconditional love of my God and my entire surrounding, they just happened to come up in my surrounding. My wife was right. I'm a G. So I guess I attracted other G's. And I taught their asses how to meditate. All right, my brothers, my sisters, to the gods, the goddesses, the kings, and the queens. This is Professor L coming just to drop another science. Do me a favor. Press like, share, and subscribe. And if you really want to show your love and you appreciate that lecture, hit me up at loveseed at PayPal. That's loveseed777@gmail.com. That's LUV, S as in Sam, EED, D as in David, 777@gmail.com. This is Professor L, and you know I got mad love for you. Hug somebody today and tell them they're going to be great. All right? Show your love. Peace.